Hey everyone, this is Bill Krieger from the Veterans Archives podcast, where we preserve and share the incredible stories of our nation's heroes. Catch us every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Wreaths Across America Radio, or stream anytime on Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Really, anywhere you choose to get your podcast, you should be able to find us. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on social media to help us reach more veterans and supporters. We are a nonprofit, and this service is completely free for veterans. Every story matters, and every voice deserves to be heard. Spread the word, honor our heroes, and join us on this mission. Follow, share, and tune in, because their story should never be forgotten. Learn more at veteransarchives.org. We'll see you there. Today is Thursday, January 15th, 2026. We're talking with Doug Brinker, who served in the United States Navy and the Michigan Army National Guard. So, good afternoon, Doug.
Good afternoon, Bill.
Great to see you again.
Great to see you.
Yeah, so, for people listening out there, Doug and I's paths have crossed a few times over the last few years.
That's right.
Yep, absolutely. So, we'll just start out with the first question, and that is, when and where were you born?
Jackson, Michigan, January 31st, 1963, which means I'll be 63 in 16 days.
That's coming up.
It's coming up.
It's funny when I was younger, I never pictured myself being 60 years old, and yet here I am.
If we knew what we knew now, back then,
we'd be dangerous.
We'd be dangerous. Yeah,
absolutely. So talk to me a little bit about growing up. Did you grow up in the Jackson area then? Or?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
So my story is really unique because I didn't grow up with brothers and sisters in a standard, normal, traditional home. I actually lived with my adoptive grandparents. And after my grandma died in December of 1969, my grandpa took care of me in Vandercook Lake, Michigan. And then he got to a point where he couldn't take care of me and placed me in the St. Joe's Home for Children, which is the same place that Tom Monahan, those that are familiar with the Detroit Tigers, Tom Monahan actually lived in the St. Joe's Home for Children in Jackson on Ellery and Porter Street.
So how old were you when you went there?
8 years old.
8 years old.
What do you was in there for 5 years.
What do you remember about how that felt to go there?
So it was unique because it was run by Catholic nuns. Mm-hmm. And anybody that knows the history of Catholic nuns, it's probably a little worse than living at Grandma and Grandpa's or the traditional home, because Catholic nuns were very strict.
Yeah. Did they really crack your knuckles with a...
I don't recall that. That was so many years ago,
yeah.
But I do recall that they enforced the rules, mm-hmm. which that's what because the kids that lived there were in there for a variety of reasons. Mm-hmm. And it's unique because I would say about 8 years ago, they had a first ever reunion. I got to picture the small group of us that attended the reunion, got a picture with Tom Monahan was there. And I actually learned just a few years ago, another friend of mine, she actually served in the 1461st unit mm-hmm. of Michigan National Guard. She was actually in the children's home and remembered me.
That's pretty incredible.
And we met about 4 years ago down in Hillsdale mm-hmm. at the American Legion. A gal and her husband, he's a Navy vet, Mothers of Veteran Suicide organization. They have a Hope bus that they travel all over the country, and they meet with mothers whose sons have taken their life by suicide, and they comfort them and provide support and resources. And that's how she was there with that couple, and we connected, and getting to share a little deeper story, we were both in the St. Joe's home together.
Wow, that's amazing. You hear those stories about the Navy, right? Like two guys served on a ship at the same time, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so you were there for a while. Did you make a lot of friends while you were?
I made a few.
Okay. And anyone that you still keep in contact with?
No. Okay. But it's interesting how in that reunion, a couple of them remembered me like they remembered every little quirk about me. And I unfortunately don't have that recall per se to remember that. I do remember a couple of instances while in the home. We always got to take turns going to Baketeria, and they had a big van truck, and they would take different kids, and I always remembered to get a free donut and stuff like that. But we had a playground, and I was then attending Trumbull Elementary School, which was about 800 yards from the home. So you'd walk through the ball fields and past Northeast Elementary, and you would arrive at Trumbull Elementary over by the detention center.
Okay. All right. And you said you were at the children's home for how long?
For 5 years, till I was 13.
Then, so what happens when you're 13?
So I went home to my mom and my biological mom and my stepdad's home. And that's where I was introduced to being around my step brothers and sisters from 13 to the time that I graduated from high school. So I went to Frost Elementary, or actually Frost Middle School. I went to Helmer. I went to Helmer and Trumbull, Blair Elementary. Blair is now the apartment complex currently today.
Nothing stays the way it did.
Helmer is currently where Dollar General is at. And Trumbull's just a vacant lot. So I went to those three schools. Prior, I went to Townsend Elementary out in Vandercook for a couple of years. And then we moved out to the Grass Lake area and went to Grass Lake and finished from 8th grade, the second semester of 8th grade, all the way through high school.
So what was it like? I mean, you went from your grandparents, where you didn't have any siblings, and you were in the home for a while, and now you're back with a family. How was that for you?
That was interesting because, being the older sibling in the family, I was expected to set
the example?
Set certain examples, and when I didn't, I kind of got the punishment for it.
Right.
So yeah, it was always a challenge.
Did you enjoy having brothers and sisters?
It was interesting because you didn't grow up with them,
right?
So you have very little chemistry between them. But I love them all the same. We spent a lot of time standing in different corners of the house. When one got in trouble, the whole team got in trouble, so everybody went in the corner. It didn't matter. You could have been the best behaved kid in the house. You still spent 15 minutes in the corner.
A little group punishment.
Yeah, group punishment. I guess maybe they should consider that today.
They were preparing you for the military. That's what they were doing. Yeah. So you were the oldest. How many brothers and sisters? Stepbrothers?
I have two brothers and two sisters. So I have a sister that she just turned a couple of years younger than me, 61. And she lives in the Tawas area. I have a sister that lives in, I believe, Clark Lake area. A brother who's 4 years younger than me. lives with my stepdad. And then I have a brother lives, I think, Kentucky, some area,
Okay.
something like that.
So who was the oldest before you got there?
My sister, who's 2 years younger than I.
Okay. And did she have a problem with having a new older person in the house, or was she
Yeah,
relieved?
we squabbled a little bit.
Yeah.
And, I got the brunt of it because I was supposed to set the example.
Right.
So
Right.
it
Well,
was a unique. The years that we grew up, once we moved out into the Leone, Grass Lake, Michigan Center area, there was a lot of back and forth of different things that went on, but
yeah.
every family has that unique household chemistry of more than one sibling in the house.
Right.
There's always going to be differences, favoritism, etc.
Yeah. So you graduated high school. Did you go into the military right away
Yes.
then? Okay. You joined the Navy. So why the Navy over any of the other services?
I don't really know. So the backstory to why I went in the Navy is because I didn't take college prep classes in high school.
Okay.
I was on the first state championship baseball team in 1980 at Grass Lake with the late Joe Bechtel,
Wow.
and who just happened to be a quarterback at Eastern Michigan University, where I tried to get into, but the school counselor told me that my chances of success the first semester was nil to none because I hadn't taken college prep classes. I would probably not do well. And so I ended up going to the Navy. Why the Navy? I don't know.
Did you check out the other branches? Did you?
I don't even know.
You
I just like. But so the interesting thing, when I was 6 years old, I received a sailor suit for Christmas. So maybe the correlation 12 years later, and I've shared it. I have a book that I've published and written stories, and I share that correlation in many of my speaking opportunities because it's interesting that I wore a Navy outfit at 6 years old and wore a real one at 18 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those things influence us somehow. We don't even think about it, but it just does. Yeah. So where did you so you enlist in the Navy? Did you go right away? Or
Yes.
Okay.
So I was on the delayed entry program. I joined June 19th, 1981, under the delayed entry program. And then I went to Great Lakes, Illinois, or some call it Great Mistakes.
I've heard it called that.
And so I went to Great Lakes, Illinois, October 19th, 1981, and was there until early January. So talk about cold.
Oh, yeah.
Michigan doesn't know cold until you stood watch in 45 below zero actual temperature for 10 minutes outside. In fact, I remember the day that San Francisco and Denver, I believe it was, played for the NFC championship. It was 72 below zero with wind chill. The frost had formed on the inside of the barracks windows. We were secured to the barracks for 3 days. We weren't allowed to even go to the chow hall, to class, to nothing. We did everything in our barracks. And then when we finally were allowed, we marched to everything, and it was still 40 below.
A balmy 40 below, right?
And the Navy, I didn't understand the concept of why the Navy issued steel-toed boondockers or steel-toed boots, for those that don't know.
Man, I haven't heard the term boondocker in a long time.
So, you get issued those steel-toed boots.
Yeah.
And the wool socks, but when you get to class, you have to take your boots off and your socks off so your feet can thaw out, so you're able to march to chow hall
Yeah. Yeah.
at lunchtime and at dinner time and everything.
That's cold.
Yeah.
That's cold. Do you remember like your first experience in basic training and what that was like for you?
So I was a sports geek at Grass Lake High School, and they had IT, which was intense training. Well, Doug figured, I'm going to get some extra physical workout here.
Right.
Long did I know that workout, you were mashed by Filipino instructors. And one of the exercises was to do leg lifts, lifting your boots 6 inches off the deck.
No more, no less, right?
And if they heard anybody drop, they extended the time. Long story short, when I went back to the barracks, I had probably a half a cup of sweat in the bottom of my boots from all that workout.
Yeah. You enjoy your extra training, did you?
Yeah, I enjoyed the extra training. I remember we got dropped out in the snow for various things.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they issued nice warm leather gloves, because they dropped you wherever.
Yeah.
And you pushed in the snow on the deck.
I went to San Diego, so I didn't experience any of that. But
That's right.
But I did go to Great Lakes for my training. So it was cold.
But yeah, I spent the time in Great Lakes. We went to Chicago Bears football game. We got snowballs thrown at us. We went downtown. We ate fine steak dinner and drank watered down beer, because then you didn't get carded when you were in the military. They didn't have the 21 and carding rule in place back then, so you could drink underage.
Well, some military bases had beer machines.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was like 50 cents or 75 cents, beer pops.
So yeah, we went over to the bowling alley on base when we were allowed, once we finished actual boot camp, and we were waiting for that transition. When we had the free time, we got to go over to the bowling alley and drink 3-2 Litz beer, which is more water than alcohol.
Right. Yeah, but you were a man. You were drinking beer. That's what was important.
We were drinking beer.
That's
we
right.
were drinking beer under 21.
So where did you go on for your next training? Did you stay at Great Lakes?
No, so the other piece of that, we had a shipmate who, unfortunately, he was from Hazel Park. He was part of a gang that was involved in a robbery, and he was given 2 options: time in prison or time in the military. He chose the military. He actually stole from many of us in the company, and then somehow we both got stationed on the same ship in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, no.
Yes. Who he ended up stealing for the whole ship. He had this technique of going up and putting his arm around you when you were opening your coffin locker. And for those that don't know, on Navy ships, your locker is your bunk where you sleep. And so he ended up memorizing people's locker combinations, and then he'd go back and write them down. So he had stolen a money order from me, and when I went to captain's mass with him, I wanted this, and the captain says, oh, that takes an act of Congress to do that. But they did bust him down. He got 90 days restriction, And then he did get an administrative discharge,
Uh-huh.
which administrative discharge is worse than a dishonorable. Administrative discharge means you don't even deserve to hand out shopping carts at Walmart.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, we were stationed, Charleston, South Carolina, stationed on the USS Mullenix, DD 944, which is a Forrest Sherman class ship of the 1,200-pound boiler system, the old school Navy.
Right.
If people are familiar with Saginaw Bay and the USS Edson, DD 946 museum ship, that is the sister ship to the Mullenix.
Oh, so if you ever get homesick, you can go visit the Bay City.
Yeah, and I did here about 7, 8, 9 years ago. There was a VFW event in Bay City that weekend, and the wife and I, we actually ended up going to the Edson. Of course, she wasn't able to walk through a lot of it, but I was able to, and so it brought back a lot of memories walking up on that bridge, because I was a boatswain's mate, the person that pilots the ship.
Right.
Being on that bridge and standing behind that great big 60-inch helm and looking out. But when I went to Beirut, Lebanon for the Malta peacekeeping mission in November of 1982. And en route, we went to the North Atlantic of 40-foot waves, 20-foot swells, and 60 and 45-degree rolls.
Yeah.
And I've told that on many archives, other stories, that people couldn't believe that at 19 years old that I piloted a Navy ship through that and survived. I didn't wind up in the bottom of Davy Jones's locker.
Well, I think that a lot of people don't realize the amount of responsibility that we give young men and women who join the military. I mean, it's been that way since the formation of the military, but you think about the stuff you did when you were 18 or 19, and I don't know I would trust an 18 or 19-year-old with that kind of stuff. So that was so your we didn't call them deployments in the Navy. What did we call them? Maybe they were deployments. Anyway, so you went to Beirut, Lebanon, as part of that, and so were you there was it a 6-month?
We were there from November to January, and then we went to the Palma, Spain, and Naples, Italy.
Yep.
That was the 2 Liberty call stops that we did. I got to experience some fine wines of Spain and the Bull Run and all of that. And then went to Naples. I actually got to go to the Vatican. Cost something like about $110 in American money to go to the Vatican. And I sat 2 pews from the pulpit and listened to the late Pope John Paul give Mass.
That must have been something.
Pretty cool. At home I have a soapstone sculpture setting of Jesus and the 12 disciples. I traded some of the dungarees, the work uniform, the blue jeans, and
the bell bottoms,
the bell-bottom blue jeans, and the long sleeve work shirt. I traded for a really nice handmade tablecloth that I shipped home to Mom and Dad.
Yeah, you can get some pretty interesting things while you're.
You can get the $5 watches.
Oh yes.
The Italian individual would, hey Joe, I got watches.
Buy yourself a nice Rolex.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. For $20 that runs for about a month and then it quits.
Right, and it's misspelled. Rolex is misspelled on it, but what are you going to do?
Right.
So you did that cruise, and then you came back to Charleston?
No, we went on to, so the ship's 25th anniversary, we were supposed to have gone to Australia, but unfortunately some U.S. sailors went to Australia prior and raised all kinds of ruckus.
Right.
So Australia didn't want us there.
A little more group punishment.
Yeah, no more group punishment. That's right. Everybody standing in the corner. We actually got to go to the Maldives Islands in the Republic of Mali, which is in the Indian Ocean. beautiful. If you look up Maldives Islands today, it didn't look like that back then.
Uh-huh.
But I actually went to the island of Fallujah. Each island had its own staff, its own bar, they prepared fresh fruits and fish. They caught different types of fish and prepared them on a bed of fresh mango and papaya.
Wow.
I remember February of 1983 of going for a swim at like 8 a.m. in the morning. It was like it is out right now, 5 inches of snow and 15 degrees out. And I was in the Maldives Islands and 85 degrees and water that you could see the bottom 200 yards out. And walking back in, I saw, it looked like a piece of plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I brushed my hands through it, and all of a sudden I felt like a sting. It actually ended up being a jellyfish.
Oh, no.
And my finger swelled up to about 4 inches in diameter on my left hand, and I had to get a shot from the medical staff on the island and then get taken back to the ship to fill out the medical report, and then got to go back to the island. But we went there, and then we went to Mombasa, Africa. And that was unique. I still have the little hand-carved African animals at home. We got to experience the beers of Africa, which is tiger, whitecap, and star. They are 18-ounce bottles. They are served at just below room temperature. And they have 13.5% alcohol by volume.
So you can get a little drunk on that.
Yeah, and 55 cents, mind you, for one beer.
Wow.
So for $1.65, it was as if I drank a whole case of American-produced beer.
Yeah. Big difference.
Now, the beer companies would be out of business if they made the beer strong enough that you drink 3 beers and you're done. They wouldn't be making the profits they are today.
That's true. That's true. So how long were you in Africa then?
I think 3 days. 2 or 3 days. Got to go on a wild African safari tour and see all the, growing up watching Mutual of Omaha.
Yeah.
And
with Marlon Perkins.
That's
and his
right.
buddy Jim.
Yeah.
Jim's always wrestling something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I lived at my grandpa's watching those old programs like that, I actually experienced in the wild all of that. And so it's kind of, something that you didn't get in history class, you actually got firsthand experience learning.
Right. I mean, what was the old adage? It was join the Navy, see the world. And it was true.
Yep.
It was true. I mean,
the other adage is never again volunteer yourself.
That is what Navy stands for.
What it stands for.
Yeah.
But I still haven't caught onto that concept, because I've still, since coming out of the Navy in 1984 off active duty, I've been volunteering for the last 42 years.
Yeah. I think, and we'll talk about this, but I really believe that that's one of the things with veterans is many of them just continue to serve after their time in the military. So, yeah.
That's because they need that connection.
Right.
They need that community. They need that connection. They need that family feeling of belongingness. Mm-hmm. And when they don't get it, then we see, unfortunately, the negative effects of crime, of suicides, of everything else that goes with that negative connotation.
Right. Absolutely. So you where do you go after Africa then?
We did come back. I think we went to Nassau, Bahamas. Mm-hmm. We went to spring break in Fort Lauderdale.
That doesn't sound like a good combination for sailors. Sailors in spring
kind of
break.
why it's a negative, but it's kind of why the military is good drinkers.
Mm-hmm.
So now we know that some have unfortunately become alcoholics or have maybe dealt with the law, getting in trouble for drinking and driving, or maybe even the worst case of killing someone.
Right.
But yeah, we went to Fort Lauderdale for spring break, and wow.
You remember much about it?
So there's a bar called the Candy Store.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, it was, I remember they had Blondie, Hart, and someone else perform on the beach. Now, this was back when I'm 19, 20 years old. This is 46 years ago now. But I can still remember those little incidences that I remember renting a convertible and driving to Miami, and like Don Johnson, in Miami Vice.
That's right. Had the radio cranked up,
And when I was when I was on the med cruise, I was the golden boy of tanning. Mm-hmm. We constructed our own tanning oil of baby oil, iodine, and coconut oil, mm-hmm. and a couple of other secret ingredients. And we would lay between the signal shack and the 40 shack, or the stacks, when we weren't working. And I was just as brown as the table is of what we're resting our arms on right now.
There's something too. Like people don't realize that in the 80s and the 70s, people used baby oil and iodine, mm-hmm. to sunbathe.
Yeah.
And that just, you wouldn't even think about doing that today. People would lose their minds.
Right.
But yeah, I remember.
And they got Panama Jack and all the other stuff now.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we got dark brown, and I remember coming home on leave. Once we did get back to Charleston, May of 1983, just before decommissioning the Mullinex.
Uh-huh.
I remember coming home, and I had a really like sky blue top and white shorts, and this dark, deep tan that I had going on.
Yeah.
I looked like a Coppertone kid.
You were the man.
I was the man. I was yeah.
Wow.
That was back when I was 155, 160 pounds, and perfect abs. And
had a six-pack instead of a case.
Yeah, instead of now today a small keg.
That's right. That's right. So you get back to your ship, and then they decommissioned it.
Yeah, they decommissioned it, and then sadly they actually took the Mullinex out off the coast of Puerto Rico, mm-hmm. and the EOD team lined it with explosives. And the first time it did not break, and that took another round, because back then they built ships they built them to last. The Mullinex was it went to Vietnam. It was part of Hurricane David, mm-hmm. and lost its forward gun mount. It was part of the Apollo 7 rescue mission.
So quite a history.
If you look up the USS Mullinex, DD 944, you'll learn a plethora of history behind the Mullinex, and mm-hmm. its dedication to the U.S. warships back in the day. But so we decommissioned it, and then I went to Norfolk, Virginia, to pre-com school, mm-hmm. and I went to Hilo firefighting school. I went to boat coxswain school, which is learning how to drive the small boats. So the boats are actually attached to the ship. So a ship is not called a boat.
No.
The boats are attached to the ship.
Right, on davits.
All right. Yeah. And so I went to LSE school, which is Hilo Landing School. So I am certified to give directions to have a helicopter take off or come in inland.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually, and that was back with the Huey 60s, the H60s that we used, and they had a great big, at night, they had a great big white circle lit up, and you landed it, when the chopper came in, you landed it, and I accidentally set the bird down about a couple of inches outside the white line.
Oh.
And the trainer says, "Congratulations, you just put that bird in the water." Because the white line represented the edge of the ship.
Right.
On the fantail side. So if you would have if that would have been a real case scenario, the helicopter would have fallen into the water.
Yeah. You learn your best lessons from your mistakes, though, right?
It's a good thing we were on land.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, I became, and then I went to Bath, Maine in August, and while the ship was being built, the USS Dewart, FFG 45, which is now decommissioned as of April of 2014, I went there, and November 19th, 1983, in about 19-degree weather in Bath, Maine, we stood out there for 2 or 3 hours with our Navy pea coats on.
Right.
Thank God for Navy wool pea coats and everything, but we stood out there and commissioned the Dewart and launched the ship into the Kennebec River.
So you're a plank owner then?
Plank owner and a shellback, because when I was in the Indian Ocean, we crossed the equator and went through shellback, which is a whole... You have to look up the shellback initiation rituals.
Right. They would call it hazing today, but
it was hazing today.
It was an initiation back then.
Yeah. Yeah, we did some crazy things, blowing water out of the tie-down things on the deck. That we had a mess cook that was about 300 pounds, and they put mustard on his belly, and we had to...
Did it kiss his belly?
Kiss his belly and dive for pickles. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you'd really get in trouble today.
Yeah.
In today's Navy, they don't probably do any of that.
No, you had the blue nose, you had the shellback initiation, Order of the Rock, or passing by the Rock of Gibraltar. There are all kinds of really cool traditions.
Yep. Yeah. So I enjoyed. I'm a plank owner. So 6 years ago, we had our first reunion, and I hadn't seen those shipmates since November 16th, 1984, when I walked off the quarterdeck in the Brow.
Yeah.
For the last time. I hadn't seen those shipmates in that amount of time 6 years ago. 4 years ago, we went to Jacksonville, Florida. And then just this past November, we were in Norfolk, Virginia for our third reunion. And October 1st through the 3rd, we will be in Philadelphia for our fourth reunion, in hopes that the government does not destroy our illustrious Dewart or sell it to another country before then. And we're going to make every attempt. We have Admiral Doan, who was part of the commanding fleet when the Dewart was commissioned, and he is going to try to pull his strings in Washington to make arrangements for us to get on board the ship one last time.
That would be great.
Yeah,
that
would really especially when you're 65 plus years old, going on it 45 years later.
The interesting thing is, to me, no matter how long you're away from it, it's when you get there, it's like you're transported back in time, and it doesn't matter if you're even on the same kind of ship, because they all have that smell and that feel, and there's just that haze gray color, right?
Yeah, when I went on the Edson back a few years ago, I was like, how did I fit through these hallways? And how did I...
You were smaller.
Yeah, I was a lot. I was 6'2", 155, and today I'm 6'4", 240.
Yeah, it's a lot different.
Yeah, I'm like a another person.
You're like two
I'm like two people in one body.
That's right.
And it's like, how did I fit in?
Yeah.
It's like I tried to crawl into the bunk, and it's like, and I slept on the top bunk.
Yeah.
How in the heck did I manage that?
And you actually slept.
And when you general quarters got sounded, you had to be on that deck and dress in 2 minutes or less at your general quarters station. It would take me 20 minutes today.
It'd take me 20 minutes just to get awake.
Yeah, just to wake up.
Right. Right. Well, I want to ask you, so in November of 1984, you walk off that ship for the last time.
Mm-hmm.
How'd that feel?
It was very emotional because I didn't want to get out of the Navy. Unfortunately, I went to the recruiter, and back then the Navy made no deals.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't interested in retaining sailors. And I went to the recruiter and I said, hey, look, what's it going to take to stay in? And I offered to re-enlist. They said, no guarantee. I offered to pay my own way to the West Coast because I wanted to go to San Diego so I could do a Westpac. Still no guarantee. So I did what all sailors getting out of the Navy do, and I went and got chain links and hooked it to my belt loop. And every month in formation, our chief boatswain's mate from Queens, New York, big guy, about 6'6", about 300 pounds, like a linebacker for the Lions.
A true boatswain's mate.
Yeah. He was a lifer. Oh, I think he probably grew up listening to Davy Jones or something. And every month during formation at 0700, I would ask permission to cut one less month off in his Navy. And I always remember, Brinker, get in the paint locker today. I always went in the paint locker, or when we went out to sea, I went over the side in the boatswain's chair, chasing running rust.
Yep.
So he found the dirtiest jobs to assign me until I got out. And I remember two guys that one, we just reconnected after 43 years. Last year, Bill Reed from the East Coast, he came to the last reunion, and we hadn't seen each other physically since him and I and Bill Ford, we all went out the night before. We were all so three of us were getting out at the same exact time. We went out in Maine, and we bought the most expensive case of champagne money could buy. And we had a party. Well, we showed up 2 hours late for muster on the day of discharge. Yeah. We almost got held. Captain almost held us from, Captain Armstrong almost held us from discharging that morning. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So what did you do when you got out?
So I came home. Came home. I collected unemployment for a year, and then I actually took a busboy job at the Clock Restaurant.
Now there's a place I have not. This is the first time I've heard that been mentioned in probably 30 years.
Yeah.
The Clock Restaurant.
Jim Conway.
Yeah.
I worked for him as a busboy, and then I trained to become a cook. And I was a cook for a little bit, and when was it? I don't even remember now. I left there. So 81. So we had I remember our first class reunion, our 5-year class reunion. We started there at the Clock. We had dinner at the Clock, and then did our things afterwards. But I worked there for a short bit, and then became what I call the minimum wage guy. I spent my whole life working 58 different jobs.
Wow.
Worked in shops. I was a janitor. I was a truck driver, machine shop, machine operator. You name it. I did a little bit of everything. Worked at McDonald's, worked at Wendy's. Yeah, it's all in my book. I
just did what you had to do, right?
Yeah, I did what I had to do. I didn't have the college experience to do a career until my early 40s. When I had joined, after I joined the Michigan National Guard 1461st Transportation Unit for the second time.
So what year did you join the National Guard?
So the original, I joined 1989.
Okay.
And I drove the 1461st for 3 years, the deuce and a half. Then they went to the 5-ton. The unit deployed to Saudi Arabia in 1990, and I was left behind. Me and 3 others were left behind. And we were told that, I was told personally, because I came in with a civilian CDL, went to a truck driving school the summer of '85. I had driven their equipment for 2.5 years, but somehow the Army said I wasn't qualified to go to war because I didn't have 88 Mike, which is truck driving training.
Yeah, you didn't go to the military truck driving school.
I didn't go to the military truck driving school. And so, long story short, they said they didn't have the money to send us. So Mr. Douglas here took, instead of following chain of command, I filed a complaint with the General's Office of the National Guard Bureau in Washington, D.C.
Let's take a quick break.
Hey, listeners, we need your help to keep the Veterans Archives podcast going. We're a nonprofit dedicated to preserving the stories of our nation's heroes, and we provide this service completely free to veterans. Your support helps us record, share, and archive these incredible stories so future generations never forget the sacrifices made for our freedom. Every donation, big or small, makes a difference. Visit veteransarchives.org to contribute today. Help us honor their service by ensuring their voices are heard. And thank you for your support, and thank you to all the veterans who have served our country. They don't like it when you do that with the IG.
No.
I don't think the IG likes it either.
No.
Yeah.
I went right to the man himself.
Yeah.
And, of course, then, everything falls downhill.
Right.
And I get called onto the carpet by the colonel of battalion. And he reams me for better than 20 or 30 minutes. Once the fire has calmed down, I asked permission to speak freely, sir. Permission granted. I said, sir, with all due great respect, that is my family that left us behind. I did what I had to do to be with my family. Long story short of that, they found the money, sent us all to phase 2 of truck driving school, where we went to Camp Grayling on the HETs, the great big heavy equipment, which is the M1 Abrams tanks. We learned how to load and unload a 70-ton tank off of that trailer with 40 wheels, what we call the monster trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're big.
We drove them up and down I-75 for training, and we became certified. And then when the unit did return from Saudi Arabia, I, along with the family readiness group, we took and planned the greatest welcome home parade party there ever was, when there was 10,000 plus Jacksonians standing alongside the sidewalks of West Ave to welcome the unit home. So I was there in uniform, saluting the buses as they drove by, and that was very heartwarming to many of them, because what I learned later, the commanding officer didn't want to take the few of us because they didn't have enough confidence or something. That's what I learned. But they were taking Marines in 3 days. They were calling them qualified over there, when it took me almost a year to get certified through military truck driving school training.
So how long did you stay in this first enlistment then?
3 years.
3 years. You did 3 years, and then you got out.
Yep, got out, and I was out for 10 years.
Now, did you just continue kind of just
doing
work?
life?
Yeah.
Yep, doing life, working all those jobs.
Yeah. Now, did you get married in this period of time at all?
I had 1993. Yeah. 1993, I got married to my oldest son's mother.
Mm-hmm.
He was born on race day, June 23rd, 1996. So I was at the hospital during contractions, turning the volume up louder and louder on the TV.
Because you couldn't get her to be quiet.
Right. Because the contractions were drowning out, trying to listen to Barney Hall and Ned Jarrett broadcast the race from Brooklyn, Michigan.
Oh, this is not the way to endear yourself to a woman, Doug, just so you know that.
No.
Are you still married?
Well, we ended up sadly divorcing 1997, and then I joined the unit back in 2002.
Okay.
And then, of course, Iraq come, and they needed volunteers. And in the meantime, I had met a gal, and we had a young son, June 16th, Father's Day of 2000, who is now served our country proudly as a United States Marine truck driver. At least he took the truck driver route.
Well, there you go.
Instead of the Navy route.
Right.
But he joined the Marines, and before he even joined, I told him, you're joining not only the elite organization, but the hardest organization. And I told him, just remember, this isn't like Scouts where you can quit.
Right.
Once you raise your hand and say, so help me God, it's a done deal. You now belong to the United States government under contract. If you choose to quit, they'll just put you in the brig for breach of contract, and then they'll give you a dishonorable discharge after your 4 years and send you on your way. And he went to Paris Island, South Carolina for boot camp. Now, those that don't know nothing about Paris Island, it's not only sticky and sand fleas and scorching hot, it's rough. It's not the Hollywood boot camp.
No.
And I remember the first 6 letters that I received from him. Dad, this sucks. I hate you. Why'd you let me join? I want to quit. And I always support him. I wrote him back loving, supporting letters. And by about week 7 or so, when they went to the gas chamber, Dad, this was fun. I never had no fun going through the gas chamber.
All of a sudden, you were a genius.
Yeah, going to the gas chamber in Great Lakes, Illinois.
Yeah.
And then towards the week 13, I'm going to make a career out of it. I'm going to be a lifer in the Marine Corps. 2 years in, stationed in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
We go down to visit him. He's sitting in this office, and he's I believe, a Spec 4, and all he does is assign equipment out, and they fight over what flavor Red Bull they're going to have and in the cooler, and this sucks. I'm getting out at my 4 years. Marines ain't what it's all cracked up to be. I didn't say nothing. I kept supporting him. So he discharges May of, what's today, 26, May of 24, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then like a year ago, they had him join the reserves. But they let me try it out for a weekend if I like it or not. No questions asked. So he does his weekend, comes home. Oh my gosh, these people don't know what they're even doing. I'm not doing this. Not long ago after that, he signs a contract to be a reservist. And that's where he's at. He does drill once a month in Selfridge Air National Guard Base. And I'm very proud. He's a mechanic, a master mechanic in Jackson. So I take my Jeep. And when I take my Jeep, I get the family rate for labor.
Yeah, there you go.
Instead of paying the full rate if somebody else works on it.
Right. No, that's always a good deal.
Yeah, that's always a good deal. I have a mechanic in the family.
So I want to back up a little bit though. So you met this gal. You're in the Michigan National Guard for your second time, and they're looking for people to volunteer to deploy.
Yep.
So what happens?
So I ended up deploying, and Austin was actually 3 years old, and Kyle was 7. I knew the risk. I actually ended up legally meeting someone and marrying, but I didn't really consider it a marriage. But the Navy would not let me, or the Guard would not let me come home and go through an annulment process because of the training for Iraq.
Right.
Because I was in Fort McCoy, Wisconsin doing training. And it was a disruption to my training schedule to deal with personal. And sadly, she ended up writing bad checks in the amount of $987.37, which anything over $500 is a federal offense. And you as a military spouse are responsible for your other spouse's actions.
Right.
Luckily, I was connected to a retired JAG officer who was the Jackson City attorney. And this is the importance that I urge all of the listeners to know, the importance of having crucial resource connections in your pocket.
It's all about it's all about relationships.
It's all about relationships.
And not having the relationship because you're going to need them someday.
Right.
But you have the relationship and you may need someone someday.
And he was successful at getting that person put in jail. And long of the short is she went before the judge. And today that I am aware of, she's no longer allowed to have any financial name on any type of financial device, be it a money order, a credit card, a checking account, etc. So what goes around comes around. Karma is real.
And it's not nice.
And it's not
sometimes.
Nice some or most of the time.
Right.
But so then 14 years ago, I met a gal from Parma, Michigan. Good old Parma, Michigan. Population, I don't know, 800 maybe.
Yeah, it's not a big city, that's for sure.
And we met, and I proposed to her on sweetest day
Mm-hmm.
at the Jackson 612 Eagles when Michigan and Michigan State were playing. Ironically, as a Michigan fan, I just happened to get down on my knee when Michigan State happened to score a touchdown. And that's what all of her friends remind me of.
Right. Nothing else but that.
Nothing else but that.
Yeah. So you met and married her after you got out of the National Guard?
After I got out, yeah. I've been home since 2004. And this was probably 2006, 7, something like that.
So did you deploy with the 1461st then?
Well, I deployed with the 1462nd out of Howell.
Okay.
Because the Howell transport unit is the ones that got mobilized.
Okay.
And they needed...
So you were in the 60.
detachment.
You were in the 61st, but
we went. 36 of us went over as rear detachment because in any military deployment, the unit getting deployed has to have what they call a certain MTOE requirement numbers, and if they don't have enough people in their unit, they have to draw from as many units around the state. Then, if they still can't make it, then they have to go out of state.
Right.
Like when the 1461st got deployed the last time that Sergeant Matthew Soper was unfortunately killed in action in Iraq, June 6th of 2007. They had an MTOE of 301. So they actually ended up having to pull even from Fort Hood, Texas, transport soldiers.
Yeah. I know when I deployed, we brought people from Connecticut and Florida and all kinds of places.
Yeah, when we ended up with the Howell unit, we ended up picking up the 1080th. We even picked up the troops out of Fort Stewart, Georgia.
Yeah.
When we flew to Georgia, we picked up more troops to make that MTOE of 180 something.
Yeah. So you did your train up at Fort McCoy then. That's like 90 days or something like that?
Yes, we were there. We drove up right after New Year's Day, and we were up there until March 18th, 2004. Talk about cold.
Yeah.
We did our training.
It's great desert training in Fort McCoy.
We did our 3-day desert training, 45 below zero. Good thing they issue the Mickey Mouse boots.
Right.
I wish I had a pair of those even today.
They are very warm.
They are very warm. You could put your bare foot in those things.
Yes, you can.
And they issued Gore-Tex. That's what they issue now.
Yeah.
For wind resistant, waterproof, and all that. So
that's great stuff.
But yeah, we did 3 days, and then March 18th, they put us on a plane headed for Kuwait. And it was 22 degrees and snowing that morning. When we landed in Kuwait, it was 87 degrees.
Yeah.
The same day. Somehow you go 13 hours and you leave at 6 a.m. from Wisconsin. You land in Kuwait at 1:30 in the afternoon on the same day.
Very weird.
It's like VA disability compensation math. 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2.
No, it equals what they tell you it equals.
So yeah, we wound up in Kuwait, 87 degrees, get on off the plane, and here we got our helmets on, and our Kevlars on, and flap vest, and gear, and all that. And so we spent 3 weeks training, doing all kinds of training, learning how to fire our M16 while driving in convoys, having the M16 hanging out the window, shooting while you're still driving.
And this was before there weren't like up armored Humvees. You were just regular.
Yeah, you weren't up armored at all.
Yeah.
We had, in fact, during our convoys, we had a half-inch of plexiglass that we weren't allowed, by the way, to fire our weapon into to see if it actually was bulletproof, because that's wrongful discharge of your weapon.
Right.
And we had sandbags on our floorboard and on our air tanks, because those are the spots that IEDs or the Haji can shoot the air tanks, and you're dead in the water once that happens.
Right. Right.
So yeah, we were there. We didn't get to shoot, and so it was interesting driving. We went to Fallujah every day, hauling supplies.
So where were you based out of then?
We were based in Camp Anaconda in Balad,
Okay.
which is north of Baghdad, about an hour.
Yeah, I was in Mosul, so
Okay.
I've been to Balad a couple of times myself. So.
But yeah, we got to the LSA of Anaconda's logistics depot, basically. It's where everything came in, and then everything got distributed out to the whole country.
So where you got all those parts that you didn't have with you,
We took Connex boxes, we took pallets. They would actually stack one pallet, and then we would stack a second pallet, and then we would run cargo netting over those, some 40 foot high, because the overpasses in Iraq are not 10'7" or 14'2". They're like 35 and 40 feet.
Yeah. So you can really move some stuff
height.
through there.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we ended up, I was there, and then Memorial Day 2004, I got up after making a dual run to the camp on the backside of Fallujah, and I stood up and fell out of my bunk. I thought, 5 foot bunk, 6'4" soldier. No big deal. Collected myself, took a few steps, bam, down I go again. Okay, what's wrong? I still hadn't figured it out.
Yeah.
Went to my squad leader, went to the platoon sergeant. He sent me up to the truck master. The truck master, being a retired ranger, Army Ranger, you truck drivers, bleep, bleep, you'll do anything to get out of a mission, won't you? You big wussies.
Oh, yeah.
Rangers are, they can eat nuts and bolts for breakfast.
Right. Yeah, and if you get your legs shut off, you just drink water.
That's right. He sent me to sick call. Get the sick call. The sergeant at the desk takes my temp, 104. He said, Sergeant, are you feeling well? I says, yeah, I just can't figure out what's going on. He said, well, you shouldn't be, because you got 104 temp. Those that don't know, it's 105 degrees at 8 a.m. in Iraq, going up to somewhere between 115 and 130 for the day.
Yeah. Not a lot of air conditioning there.
Now, no air conditioning. Now, the 255 air, 2 windows down, 55 mile an hour air.
Yeah.
And so he got the colonel. They called me into the evaluation room. He said, Sergeant, drop your trousers. I dropped my trousers, and he's like, Sergeant, have you looked at your leg this morning, sir? I said, no, sir. He said, you might want to look down. I looked down, and from my knee down to my ankle was as red as the coffee cup I'm drinking right now. It was swelled up to 18.6 inches. My ankle was 10.5 inches. You could feel the heat radiating about 4 or 5 inches above my leg. He says, this is the worst case cellulitis staph infection I've ever seen. What had occurred was jumping in and out of the truck during ambush attacks. I caused an abrasion on the end of my big toe on my left foot. And the bacteria, because over there, Iraqis are allowed to do their business in the sand. You got all those animals doing their thing in the sand. the sand had actually gotten into my boots, obviously, and caused the bacteria to form. Probably, they figure, about 2 weeks prior to this incident, and it showed itself. And he said that if I would have waited till noon that day, they would have been scraping me out of the motor pool, because what would have happened is, if that would have found a spot through my waist, which, by the way, my lymph nodes were swelled up as big as my fist on both sides. The infection had already started to travel into my right leg. But if it had found a spot through my waistline, it would have caused me to have a fatal stroke, a fatal heart attack, a fatal blood clot, or they'd have been forced to cut my leg off at my knee to save my life. So they put me in the cache, which is like MASH unit, field hospital.
Yep, combat surgical hospital, I think is what it is.
And their mortar attacks came in, and you had to jump down off the hospital bed and take cover. And of course, my leg was stretched to the point that if it would have stretched any further, it began to shred open.
Yeah.
And so I was there for 3 days. Then they put me on the flight line with an Air Force major. The night before, they flew me to Landstuhl, to Ramstein, Germany, and eventually Landstuhl Hospital. My blood pressure dropped to 86/54. And the major was highly concerned about putting me on a C-130 because the C-130 is not a hospital ship.
Right.
It is an air vessel that's just a transport. They transport hospitalization troops to Germany. So anyways, they took a chance. She was actually a professor from medicine from the University of Missouri, and she actually asked me if I could be a case study for her when she returned to the States for lecture. So I signed a waiver and everything. So I actually became one of those case studies. And
famous for not a good reason.
Yeah, famous for not a good reason.
Yeah.
And so I got to Ramstein. They bused me to Landstuhl Hospital. I laid in that bed for 4.5 days. I was in a room with 3 other really super banged up soldiers that were 100 times worse off than I was. And each time, because of the infection, each time that I got out of my bunk to go to the bathroom, it took me about 15 minutes to walk 25, 30 feet, because the blood was rushing down into the infection and it was trying to push my leg outward. And there was no place for it to go because my leg was at that point of the infection of swelling. So they ended up flying me. I got the opportunity to go to Liechtenstein, Germany. Cost me like $80 in American money for the cab. I went to Liechtenstein, went to the oldest castle in German history, got some beautiful photos, and asked actually I wanted a Coke or Diet Coke, and they gave me a bottle of spritzer water, because soda over there means something different.
Right, right.
And I had my interpretation book, but I was trying to find how to ask for an actual Coke. But, when I got into Germany, when I got off the plane, the air quality had completely changed. It went from that dense, dead smell from Iraq to fresh air. And so I knew you're in better quality, but I ended up 5 days there. Then they flew me to Andrews Air Force Base, where I got to see the tail of Air Force One, because President Reagan had died, and they flew his body to Washington. And then they flew me, this is military understanding, they flew me from Andrews to Scott Air Force Base in Illinois. Why they did that, I don't know. I'm not the one in charge.
Right.
And I got to meet a 2-star general who was a former truck master. Asked me about up-armoring on vehicles. Oh, sir, I'm the wrong soldier to ask that question. And so he was taking kind of a survey to find out from troops in the field, downrange, coming back, and what their thoughts on the up armor. So I gave him a story full.
A piece of your mind,
Yeah,
right?
and then ended up, they flew me to, after 5 days, they flew me to Fort Knox, Kentucky, where I spent 4.5 months in medical hold unit, going over to the clinic every day until the colonel ordered me not to come to his clinic unless I had other medical needs.
So you're just kind of there.
Yep, I was there, and we worked the hospital floor, which now the hospital no longer exists. They've torn it down. Ireland Army Hospital, I think is what the name of it was. No longer exists. Got to go on Fort Knox here several years ago when Lieutenant Dan Band came and performed with Gary Sinise, and I was lost. Even though I knew my way around Fort Knox, I couldn't find my way to nothing.
Yeah, they changed
I had to
everything.
Google how to just get to the PX.
Right.
But that's my whole story of my Iraq deployment and then November, they told me, November 3rd, the major told me, you have 2 choices. You can stay in or you can get out. If you stay in, because you're not deployable, you're not promotable.
Right.
And you'll remain in E5 until your 60th birthday. And I wasn't going to be told what to do by a 25-year-old that had less time in the military than I had time in life.
Right.
So I got out and came back home. January 2006, the VA under voc rehab program sent me to Jackson Community College, where at 42 years old, I started my college career. And I finished with an Associate's in Business Administration, a Certificate in Marketing. Then I transferred to Eastern Michigan University.
That's a blast from your past,
Right.
That's where you wanted to go to begin with.
So full circle of life
Right.
actually is real.
Yeah.
And I returned to Eastern Michigan September of 2009. I started in marketing, but I could never pass business statistics.
That is a, listen out there, that's a hard class.
Very hard.
Yeah, that's a tough
In
one.
fact, even algebra, I spent more time in the tutor lab just to get a B- because I could never solve for X.
Right.
I didn't understand the concept of these letters and numbers, of why math is, come to find out it's logistical reasoning. That's the answer that all these mathematicians say. It's logistical reasoning. If you can solve those type of problems, you can solve any problem in life.
There you go.
Regardless. And so I ended up couldn't pass, and the VA said, well, we ain't going to continue to pay. So I changed my major to communication. And those that don't know out there, April of 1991, I joined an organization called Toastmasters International because I was in the JC's organization, and the JC's had a speak up competition. And I never won at the state level because I never got feedback until April of 91, joining Toastmasters. And for 5 years, I worked on the same speech on the last line of the JC's creed, where service to humanity is the best work of life. In May of 1996, in front of 750 Michigan JCs, my name was selected as the state champion of Speak Up, where I had to deliver that speech that I had been working on for 5 years. Fast forward now, I go to Eastern Michigan, change to communication, graduate with a bachelor's in communication, started my master's program until December of 14, where they allowed me to walk and graduate, but I hadn't quite finished because I had 3 credits left. Mom took ill from a fall. She ended up having multiple hip surgeries, and sadly, July of 2006, or 2016, excuse me, she ended up passing. And so I took a 4-year hardship leave. Eastern sent that letter that says, if you don't return, you'll have to start your program all over. And I know the VA ain't going to pay another $100,000 for my degree. So I returned in September of 2020. And April of 2021, I finished my master's degree in communication, where over that course of 9 years, I took 56 different communication classes.
Congratulations. That's an accomplishment.
57 years old.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it just takes a little time to get things done.
So instead of graduating at 22 or 25 with a master's, I graduated at 57 with a master's.
Now, I was a youngster when I got my master's. I was 50. I had just turned 50 when I completed my
nice
master's
50-year-old birthday present.
Yeah, it was a lot of work.
And then I became employed at Lifeways Mental Health in January of 2018. I went to peer certification school and become a state certified peer support specialist, where I worked in crisis services. And then the last 2 years, prior to retirement, last October 3rd, I worked specifically with veterans and their families, providing hope and help and resources. Retired October 3rd and got appointed as the newest board member in November of 2025. So my full circle of life, I went from consumer of services for 2 failed suicide attempts, August of 1999, February of 2001, to an employee, to a board member.
Well, let's not forget that you were the guy working the minimum wage jobs.
Right. I was the 58 job minimum wage guy.
58, yeah. And a suicide survivor, and here you are now helping other people.
Helping them. I've been now for the last 7 years appointed as the Michigan VFW mental health director. I'm a candidate for District 6 commander starting next June, or this coming June, actually. And I'm the founder of Beacon for Hope, LLC, where hope stands for helping one person every day. And last August, after 8 years of hard work, I published my first book, My Dark Shadow, From a Suicidal Self to a Purpose of Hope.
That's incredible. I'll be reading that book because I think that's my copy.
That is your copy. I just need to autograph it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So really, what an interesting life. You know, and I think it's right to say it's just never too late to continue to be the best person that you can be.
That's right.
Right.
Best version every day you wake up. If you haven't, the helping one person every day concept, I believe, is important because for the most part, a lot of people didn't help me specifically per se.
Right.
I didn't have, when I was in crisis mode for nearly 7 years with deep depression and the suicide attempts, I didn't have peer supports. I didn't have the supports like I do today. People maybe in the background in lots of areas helped me, but not on the forefront.
Yeah, not directly.
Not directly, indirectly they did. And that's what my message that I speak. You know, the book, it's not intended to make me a lot of money. It's intended to save lives because we know, besides what the VA reports of only 17 suicides a day, the reality numbers somewhere around 40 to 43 a day. And that doesn't even include our active duty. I know 3 years ago, 547 active duty members took their life. 15 of them were National Guard members. So we know that suicide is an epidemic. Yes, it's been going since the 30s, but it doesn't have to be a way of life. In fact, I learned last Wednesday at a veterans breakfast in Brooklyn that happens every first Wednesday from 8 to 10 for free, Compliments of Valor organization. We learned that a young 32-year-old veteran, part of the VFW in Lambertville, took his life over the holidays, leaving behind a wife and 2 young children. So the book I'm not trying to get rich off this book. I'm trying to prevent another suicide amongst our active duty and our military and our young people. We have over 10,000 young people in this country take their life between 8 years old and 17 years old every year. And we know that there's other alternatives with coping skills and the resiliency. We know that currently the state legislative house right now is, before them, they have House Bill hyperbaric oxygen treatment therapy that is getting ready to get voted on. We want to make hyperbaric oxygen treatment therapy available for veterans and non-veterans, but primarily for veterans, because we know through research that hyperbaric oxygen treatment is an opportunity for the military person to go into for 53 minutes. They get 100% medical grade oxygen pumped into the chamber, and it starts to repair all the broken red blood vessels that cause traumatic brain injury, military sexual trauma, post-traumatic stress, and foot ulcers in diabetics, along with a plethora of other blood-ordered diseases.
Right.
And I know a good friend of mine, Kevin Hensley, who's a stout advocate. He's part of the initiative that got the PACT Act passed. He, along with 3 others, wrote a book called The Promise. And their stories, because of burn pits, he suffers from respiratory illness. And he knows that his life won't be a long-lived, but he knows we continue to work with the state legislator, State Representative Kathy Schmaltz, who I testified in front of her House Committee of Veterans and Family Affairs back on March 25th. We know that hyperbaric is the way to helping prevent these suicides, because if you can reduce the post-traumatic stress and TBI and MST, military sexual trauma, in people, it will literally reduce their thoughts of wanting to kill themselves.
So a lot there. And you know, if you look at your lifetime, right up till the point where we're talking today, you've continued to serve. Yes. Inside and outside of the military.
And I will until I take my last breath. In fact, a good Lord, if I'm allowed into the heavenly pearly gates, I may be up there.
Well, you hung out with the nuns for 5 years, so I'm going to assume that's a given. So we've talked about a lot of stuff today, Doug. You know, your life has been fascinating. I've known you for a while, didn't know all of this about you, so it's
what I wrote the book for.
Yeah.
I put 130 pages of my whole life into this book, and people say, only 130 pages? yeah, I've touched on every piece of what I've just shared. I've touched on in this book for the most part, with the exception to a couple of things. But they're small chapters. It's designed not to go deep into the weeds of each story, because I want to, the obvious thing is to have organization event planners hire Beacon for Hope LLC to come into their organization and get paid to share more deeper, in-depth information of my stories.
So the name of your book is?
My Dark Shadow, From a Suicidal Self to a Purpose of Hope, where hope stands for helping one person every day.
And where can you get that?
They can get it in Amazon, through the Amazon bookstore, through the Barnes & Noble bookstore online, through Dorrance Publishing, which is my publisher of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, through their bookstore, or they can contact me directly through social media, and they can get a hard copy.
Okay. All right. So again, we've covered a lot today. I appreciate you coming out. I just have one more question for you. For someone listening to this, say 100 years from now, what message would you like to leave people with?
I believe that something I learned from a veteran last year, and he said, when we raised our hand and said, "So help me God," that is the day our benefits began to start being earned. Many of our veterans feel that they don't deserve to get their disability compensation. They don't deserve to be enrolled in VA health care because they didn't serve 20 years, what have you. These are the veterans that actually should be getting their benefits. They should be enrolled in VA healthcare. They should be a member of the Veterans Foreign Wars Organization, or the American Legion, or the Disabled American Veterans, or Vietnam veterans, because no one does more for veterans than the VFW. But we've got an opportunity to change the landscape where suicide is no longer an epidemic amongst veterans and their families, no longer an epidemic among active duty. And more importantly, the veteran needs to know that their life matters every moment of every day, of every minute that they serve, no matter what they do. If they're helping one person be a better version of themselves every day, they're actually helping themselves be a better version of themselves.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Thanks for coming out here today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's a wrap for this episode of the Veterans Archives podcast. We truly appreciate you taking the time to listen and honor the incredible stories of our nation's heroes. Don't forget, you can catch us every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Wreaths Across America Radio, or stream past episodes anytime on Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and as I've said before, any place you can find a podcast, you can find the Veterans Archives podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share our content on YouTube and Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and across all social media. Every share helps us reach more people and preserve more stories. The Veterans Archives podcast is a nonprofit initiative, and our mission is simple: to give veterans a voice and ensure their stories are never forgotten. This service is completely free for veterans because their sacrifices deserve to be recognized and remembered. You want to help? Follow us, spread the word, and if you know a veteran with a story to tell, send them our way. Visit us at veteransarchives.org to learn more about how you can get involved. Thanks again for tuning in, and most importantly, thank you to all the veterans and their families for their service and sacrifice. Until next time, take care, and we will see you on the next episode of the Veterans Archives podcast.